Start with, I mean, this just hit me like a ton of bricks. I'm straight up frank with you, right? This one hit me like a ton of bricks, and I suppose I could put it. This is going to be graphic, so I'm sorry about that. I am sorry about that, but nonetheless, this is kind of what's been going on. So let me just throw this up here. This true hero. Let me just move over a little bit here because we'll do a little bit of. Very, very pleased with my audio setup, by the way. I really, really worked hard on it, and it's coming along well. So if you haven't seen this, I do warn you ahead of time that it is pretty appalling. So this heroic man is was horrifyingly, appallingly shot. His name was Police Captain David Dorn. He's from St. Louis. 77-year-old retired police captain was murdered by looters when he tried to protect a local shop. People who encouraged these riots, was it worth it? Did you get what you want? Sickening. And, so this guy became a cop in the 1960s. Of course, he faced, obviously, a fair amount of racism, I would imagine, back in the day. And he was just gunned down. He was retired, and he was helping out somebody whose pawn shop, a friend of his, whose pawn shop was being attacked by looters, and he just got, he just got gunned down. 77-year-old guy tries to save a city, suits up, so to speak, and goes down to try and stop the bad guys, as men do, right? As men do. As men generally do. And what happened? Well, of course, we can see what happened. What happened was, and you know what happened with his wife, right? I mean, you know this kind of stuff, right? What happened was his wife probably said to him, Dave, you're 77 years old. You've done your time. This is not your fight. These are young punks full of bravado and bullets. So this is not your time. Don't go down there. And he's like, he's got a sense of obligation. He's got a sense of duty, this guy. And he wanted to help his city. He wanted to help his friend. He wanted to help push back against the violence he had dedicated his whole life to attempting to control. I don't know much about this guy's career, but I do know that he strikes me as an old school kind of hero. Somebody who stood up against the mob. And what happened? He didn't listen to his wife, as we often don't, right? We men, we often don't listen to our wives, right? We do things that are courageous to the point of foolhardiness, right? So courage is a very, very difficult thing. Too little, you're a coward. Too much, you're foolhardy and reckless. And you're like that, that apple-cheeked young kid in every World War I movie who's so enthusiastic and so patriotic and then just goes over the barbed wire and gets completely ripped apart by Hun bullets. So, this is a guy, I want you to think of you live on a street, right? You live on a street, and David Dorn moves in next door on one side. On your left is David Dorn, and on your right, George Floyd moves in. The drug addict, the violent felon. Who are you going to want to lean over your backyard fence to have a chit-chat with? Who you were going to enjoy when they knock on the door and say, I'm a little bored, let's have a chat. I got nothing to do. What's on your mind, right? Sit down, have a great conversation. These absolute bastards. It's the first time I've sworn on Twitter. It's the first time I've sworn on Twitter. I don't mind a bit of salty language. I don't mind. But they just fucking killed him. They just killed him. They just straight up. Looters just ran past. So I don't know what their race is. The looters just straight up ran past him, dropped a bullet in his skull, and kept going. And of course, the mainstream media, at least as far as I saw when I had started recording this, the mainstream media, they hadn't reported on this. This David Dorn. No reports. Because he doesn't fit the narrative, right? And he was, like, he strikes me as sort of an old school Thomas Sowell and all of this kind of stuff that he just seemed like a good guy. And I could be over-sentimentalizing. I don't know the man, obviously. But this one really, really hit me. This one really hit me. I don't know how you guys are feeling. Let me know. But this one did really hit me. Really hard. And we're going to have to see how this plays out. Just terrible stuff. This is the story. During a night of violent protests and looting in St. Louis, David Dorn was shot and killed by looters at a pawn shop in an incident that was captured on Facebook Live. It was streamed on Facebook Live. And this guy's got a wife. He's got kids. He's got grandkids, I'm sure. And this is what they have to look at. They have to look at this guy dropped dead like a carcass on the floor, bleeding. So Dorn, a retired police captain, was shot in the chest at around 2:30 a.m. and died in front of the shop, Lee's Pawn and Jewelry. 77-year-old was identified on Tuesday morning during a press conference by the mayor and police chief. Hayden said Dorn was killed, quote, during a looting process. David Dorn was exercising law enforcement training that he learned here. Police are investigating the shooting, and there have been no arrests yet in connection with Dorn's death. Former St. Louis Police Chief Tim Fitch said on Twitter that Dorn was, quote, a true public servant, protecting and serving all the way to the end. None of us who knew you are surprised you went out fighting at Lee's Pawn this morning. Godspeed, my friend. The incident was captured on Facebook. Live, Dorn's wife, Anne Marie Dorn, told St. Louis Post-Dispatch that he was friends with the owner of the pawn shop. She said he worked with him and would go check on the property when the burglar alarms went off to make sure everything was okay. The outlet said she was too distraught to talk more about her husband. The incident was captured on Facebook Live, since been removed. The person taking the video is in a car which pulls up to the sidewalk by the pawn shop after the shooting takes place. The person then gets out of the vehicle and walks up to the victim saying, "Stay with me, stay with me." He then says, "All for some TVs, man? For real? It's somebody's granddaddy." The Ethical Society of Police, who posted about Dorn's death, told the Post-Dispatch that they were aware of the video. The state representative wrote on Facebook, "I just seen a man die on live, man. SMH. He also told the outlet he was very traumatized right now. Dorn worked as a St. Louis police officer for 38 years before retiring in 2007. A tweet from the Ethical Society of the Police said, "One of the people murdered last night was a retired St. Louis city captain. He was murdered by looters at a pawn shop. He was the type of brother that would have given his life to save them if he had to. Violence is not the answer. Whether it's a citizen or officer, RIP captain." He started in the 60s as a rookie patrol officer before rising up the ranks and becoming a captain. Dorn also served as the deputy commander of the Bureau of Patrol Support, overseeing patrols, a tactical unit, and commercial vehicles. Dorn's wife still works for the police department. He said Dorn was a fine captain, and many of us, the other officers, looked up to him. Dorn was well liked, very pleasant, and his wife still works there. So a very sad time for our agency. We will honor him. Now, I just wanted to mention, and I hope you guys are not ever in this situation. I really do. I really hope that you're not ever in this situation. But if you are, please, my friends, do me a favor. If you come up to somebody who's been shot and he's lying, gasping and choking in a pool of his own blood, please stop filming. Please stop filming. Kneel down beside that person. Take his hand and tell him he's going to be all right. Tell him it's not so bad. Lie to him if you have to. Hold his hand and have a human-to-human contact as he slips into the great beyond. Okay? Don't fucking stream his death to Facebook Live. Kneel down and hold his hand and be with him in his moment of death, as we would all want someone to kneel with us and hold our hand as we slip into that, whatever that is. That's not streaming stuff, man. That's human-to-human contact that people who are dying desperately need. Have you people never seen any fucking war movies? You don't GoPro that, people. You just don't. You just don't. You just don't. CBS News. Absolute human garbage. Absolute race-baiting human garbage. And this is the kind of stuff, like I was talking about this last night, right? How people get killed for this kind of stuff. Excuse me. White bar owner in Omaha shot and killed by a black protester. He won't face charges. Wow, that sounds really bad now, doesn't it? Doesn't that just sound terrible? That he won't even face charges? And I'm sorry, I don't know, for some reason I can't scroll this thing. I'm supposed to be able to, but I can't scroll it at the moment. A page down or anything? No, hang on a sec. So, these pieces of human excrement, I will tell you what the real story is. During protests, look at the title. A white bar owner in Omaha shot and killed a black protester. He won't face charges. Sophie fucking Lewis. Sounds terrible, right? He was just shot and killed a black protester out of nowhere. He's not even going to face charges because everything's so goddamn racist, right? Oh, well, that's... Now, I see here we've gone from... Oh, you can't see this. You've gone from protester down here, suddenly he's an activist. During protests in Omaha, Nebraska, over the weekend, a black activist was shot and killed by a white bar owner after a fight broke out. The county attorney said the shooter will not face charges because he was, quote, defending himself. Defending himself. The Douglas County Attorney's Office determined Gardner acted in self-defense after interviewing the shooter and reviewing videos of the incident. There was a consensus that the actions of the shooter were justified. County Attorney Don Klein says there wasn't any big disagreement about what happened here. According to prosecutors, the incident followed an altercation involving Gardner's father, who pushed several protesters when asking them to leave the bar. A grainy surveillance video of the shooting played during the briefing shows Gardner backed up and pointed a gun after two people tackled him in the street. He initially fired 2 shots in the air that did not hit anyone. After Skurlock jumped on his back, Gardner could be heard saying, "Get off me," many times before fatally shooting Skurlock once in the clavicle. Klein said, "Mr. Gardner, as we now know, has said, I did what I did to defend myself, and we find that we can't disprove that from the evidence that we have." In response to outrage on social media, Klein added that there was not any racial tone to the conversations between Skurlock and Gardner. Jesus H. Jesus H. There's a video. They're asking these people to leave. There's violence. This guy is getting gang beaten. He shoots in the air. He screams, "Get off me." And then he finally shoots because he's got to save his own life from this thug. So it was not a black protester. It wasn't even a black activist. It was a violent black criminal and his gang who had beaten up this white guy, who shot in the air, screamed for them to get off him, and finally, to save his own life, shot a guy. CBSUs, you are race-baiting pieces of human garbage. I'm just telling you that straight fucking up. You are just absolutely horrible and horrifying human beings, and you're going to get people killed out there with this kind of shit. And you're sitting in your comfy little goddamn offices, sipping your lattes and typing away with all of the glee of low-rent Tyrannosaurus sociopaths. I can't even tell you. Like, you know what it's like? You ever have this? It's a stupid example, and I apologize for it straight up. But you ever have this when you're a kid? Like, you build something. You build something that's beautiful, right? You build something that means something that's beautiful, whether it's a sandcastle or a beautiful Lego structure or a house of cards or a domino tilt-over set or something like that. You try and build something beautiful, right? And you know how it goes a lot of times. You know how it goes. Someone just comes along and smashes it down. So there are those of us out here, like, we're really working hard as hell to try and bring some peace and some sanity to this situation. We really are working hard as hell to try and get some peace and sanity to this situation. And then you get CBS fucking News coming along and just kicking the whole goddamn sandcastle down. And for what? A couple of clicks, a couple of outrage, sell some goddamn ads, make a couple of pennies. Just absolutely appalling. Absolutely appalling. I'm working my very best, as are you, I'm sure, my good friends. I'm working my very best to try and have people reason with each other. And will they? Well, we might have a bit of a chance if it wasn't for all of this, right? 2013, murder of blacks and whites in the U.S. 2013 per 1 million members of the murderer's race. Whites killed by blacks, 9.83. Blacks killed by whites, 0.77. Whites killed by whites, 10.22. Blacks killed by blacks, 53.94. So the very lowest number here is blacks killed by whites. Whites killed by blacks vastly outnumber blacks killed by whites. And the sources are right there, 2013 FBI crime report. Whites killed by blacks, 9.83 per million. Blacks killed by whites, 0.77. Whites killed by whites, 10.22. Blacks killed by blacks, 53.94. This very tiny number down here, the very smallest number, below 1, when none of them are below 9, one of them's over 50, 0.77, that's what Black Lives Matter is all about. That's what the media is hysterical about. This is the bullshit Marxist race-baiting propaganda that's being pushed forward. You tell me we live in any kind of rational, sane universe where people look at facts and try to make conclusions to help people